What's up? My name is Glueboy, welcome back to the channel, and today we talked about the Primarch before, and now we gotta talk about his sons, the Iron Warriors. Which, I gotta say, as much as I'm not a big fan of Perturabo, and I'm still not my cup of tea, his Legion is really cool, actually. I really like the Iron Warriors, mainly because they are horrifically brutal. Now, the Chaos Legions have a lot of absolute psychopaths. I mean, obviously you have the Night Lords and their whole flay you alive tactics, or you have like the Emperor's Children who are just insane sadomasochists. But the Iron Warriors are brutal, pragmatic, and just all they demand is complete loyalty and efficiently. If you join the ranks as an Iron Warrior, your life is constant work, and the second you question or act out of line of an order, you're fucking dead. They are so brutal because they work you like to your limits, and also any little hint of failure, also an execution. It's kind of reported that being an Iron Warrior is kind of one of the worst gigs you can have as a Chaos guy. But anyways, let's just get into the Iron Warriors. So before Perturabo and all of that, the 4th Legion got their start made out of a bunch of gun tribes that the Emperor conquered a long time ago during the Unification Wars of Terra. Now, can't really figure out what these gun tribes or where they were actually from, as a lot of these legions are actually sourced from real world locations on Earth. But the Iron Warriors, a little trickier. Namely, these gun tribes are kind of what you get on the tin. I only picture they're Mad Max style gun-toting cowboys, because there's a theory that the area they're from is Central America era, so it's a very real possibility these were Mad Max techno-barbarians, pistol-toting gunslingers, which I actually really like. I hope that's true. If there's a source for any of this, please let me know. But the Iron Warriors were recruited and honestly served really well, because from their creation, the Iron Warriors adapted really quickly to the gene seed and the augmentations to become a Space Marine. So they were ready to fight right away. That and these guys were obedient to the letter. They followed every part of an order, they fulfilled it perfectly, and also, just to put a little cherry on top, they were actually really good at fortification. So the areas they would take over on Terra during the Unification Wars were actually super well fortified. They were never going to be lost. So they kind of just got a reputation of being super reliable and the guys you can send to go deal with whatever bullshit you need done. But there was a little downside when it came to the 4th Legion, as they were really fucking stubborn. I mean, stubborn to a fault. Mainly in the fact that they absolutely refused to change their tactics. And these tactics being mainly very long attrition-based sieges, because they were essentially known as the workhorses of the Imperium, as you could send them to do whatever annoying bullshit job, campaign. You'd get no glory from it, it would just take a long time and it'd be super arduous, but the 4th Legion would do it wholeheartedly. And they'd take part in these really long sieges and then come out the victors. And the problem is they never adapted. New tactics or new situation would come up, they're nah, tried and true. We dig a trench and we shell the ever-living shit out of the enemy. Which, to be fair, I do enjoy a bunch of artillery spam. It's kind of my go-to in a lot of tactics games. But this came to a problem when they met a Forge world that just wouldn't crack, and led to a horrific siege that crippled the Legion to a pretty big amount. As a standard, Astartes Legion was about 100,000, and they lost 29,000 Space Marines. A pretty big blow. They got the planet in the end, but it was really bad. And this would come to a head when they rediscovered Perturabo. Watch that video. This man is super pragmatic and he wants his Legion to be efficient. So the first thing he does is he digs through all the records of their performance and finds them lacking. And so Perturabo, of course, does the smart decision and decides to cripple his Legion further by enforcing decimation, where obviously you round up all your soldiers in groups of 10, they draw lots, and whoever gets that loser's token gets beaten to death by the other 9. And this would essentially set the stage for what the Iron Warriors are. They are very brutal and obedient, and they have to do their absolute best, or else they'll probably just get beaten to death again. Which, after, you know, the decimation, they could set out into the space and actually start conquering for the Great Crusade. And I think in reading all of this, and all my knowledge of the other legions, reading through the Horus Heresy, I think the Iron Warriors had the absolute worst of it during the actual Great Crusade. As, like, that's not to diminish the other legions. They went through some horrific stuff too. But the Iron Warriors, good God, they had horrific campaigns they had to deal with, and a man-child Primarch who just caused some problems. As eventually, the Iron Warriors started to have their morale chipped away, as they kept doing really annoying campaigns, really arduous ones, because perturabo would get an order, realize that it's kind of a dumb campaign or it's going to suck, refuse to say no or question the order at all, seethe, and go do it. And then the cycle would keep repeating. This would also hit with the campaign against Hrud. These horrific looking Xenos that have powers over like time itself. They have time dilation fields around them that actively like accelerate the atmosphere around them. So like from a distance, you're looking at a Hrud and it's just a shimmering like ball of just air. Bad. And it's around this point that the Iron Warriors started to develop more of their culture. Their culture of their absolute disregard for life. Because the Iron Warriors stopped really caring about their own lives. Because there's a tactic with the Hrud. The Hrud were primarily living in caves that they tunneled out, and they had powers to, you know, harness their time energy and forcefully age you to death. There's a scene in Hammers of Olympia where a guy gets aged to death and his like armor starts just oxidizing and rusting away as he's just rapidly aging, like full on like thin skin and liver spots, seeing his veins, and then he dies of old age. And to start, he's dying of old age is horrific because they're not meant to do that. And one of the tactics they'd have is they would create a fire team and then put one guy a little farther in the front. Because the Hrud, when they're nearby, the temperature starts heating up because, you know, they're changing the atmosphere around them. And this guy would bear the brunt of being aged the most, because it's better he gets aged to death than all of us. And besides, this campaign would only actually end when the Hrud built a giant time bomb. I don't mean like, you know, a time bomb with a clock on. I mean like an actual time bomb that exploded with time acceleration energy that destroyed a large point of the Legion, crippling the expedition fleet they were on, and also so powerful that the sun itself that was like nearby accelerated in stages to like the red giant stage of its life. And the Hrud just disappeared. This would kind of be the nail in the coffin, or really the nail in the coffin right before the main turning point being the genocide of Olympia, where Perturabo's homeworld was an open revolt, and they refused Perturabo's just, you know, orders for punishment of decimation. Reading about the man, it seems like that's his key decision whenever anything goes wrong is, all right, that's a decimation. It just tries to kill 1 in 10 of anything. This led to the absolute destruction of Olympia, killing 5 million citizens and taking the rest as slaves, which I think really kind of settled the thing for the Iron Warriors' disregard of lives. Because at this point, once they join the side of the heresy, it gets bad. Now there's a meme you've definitely seen. This one, you know, friendly fire is a thing the Iron Warriors are just kind of down with, because their primary tactic is heavy explosives and artillery. And they don't really care who's on the other side of the artillery, as long as the enemies are probably close by. Which also, fun fact, this meme, this isn't just a meme. There's there is an actual excerpt in a book that is just this. An Iron Warrior literally, after being complained to of like, you're shelling our men, says, lol, Lmao. These guys are insane. Another fun tactic they have. So I mentioned they took slaves from Olympia. Is actually a key tactic they use, as they create prisoner warbands, or prisoner units. They strap them with like basic weapons, probably just auto guns and las guns they find, the shittiest of the shittiest weapons. They conscript these slaves to charge headfirst at the enemy, specifically to waste the ammunition of the enemy forces, And the whole time, they're all in the back doing whatever, laughing heartily as they just shell the ever-living shit out of the enemy forces. Or the prisoner squads they have, because they got too close to the enemy, and they don't care. Because there's actually portions in some sieges where Iron Warriors refer to like normal people as just flesh. There is like zero regard for human life. And speaking more of Legion culture, they're also super big in augmentations and actual machinery, as they are chaos, but they really, really hate like chaos shit. They hate demons. They only see demons useful as just fodder. In fact, the Iron Warriors are primarily the ones who build a lot of the demon engines, beside Vashtor. They build these demon engines, and then they specifically summon demons, so then they can lock them inside the demon engines and force them to be a warp battery for the machinery. That's all demons are good for in their eyes. Which also, by the way, apparently Perturabo and Vashtor are like buddies, because they're both, you know, very big on the building thing. Because a bunch of Iron Warriors were gifted to Vashtor to help out with the siege on the Rock a while back. Yeah, fun fact, I guess, they're just buddies. But also, this goes down to an idea, too, of hating chaos mutations. Just being present in the warp kind of causes your body to change. And the Iron Warriors have a solution to that. You start, you know, mutating, get rid of it. Say, for example, you hang out a little too close to a Slaanesh demon, and you start growing one of their big crab claws, and you're just like, oh shit, that's a demon arm. Well, they just pull out their chainsaw, cut the arm off, and then replace it with a new cool robot one. Because the robot arm isn't chaos corrupted. Granted, it's going to be weird, horrific warp infusion of metal and flesh, but at least it's not demony. Speaking of that, finally, I'm going to talk about the best unit when it comes to the Chaos Legions. That's the Obliterators. I love the Obliterators so much. Fun fact, I actually have 6 of these models that I'm waiting to use at some tournament. They're absolutely amazing. But the Obliterators were first created during the Horus Heresy when a demon named Sara M decided to possess an Iron Warrior on one of their campaigns. It possessed him, and he started becoming this absolute fusion of metal, weapons, and flesh. All parts of it just melding together, and also building on this thing of whatever weapons this guy picked up started to fuse with his body and meld into it. Eventually, this would be replaced as the Obliterators kept becoming a thing, because there's something called the Obliterator virus. It is an actual virus that is either created by the Dark Mechanicus or everyone's favorite mad scientist, Fabius Bile, when they were fucking around with some Nurgle tech. But the Obliterator virus, essentially, if you hang out with an Obliterator too much, you'll catch it. And then, yeah, your armor starts to fuse with you. You start imbuing yourself with weapons. And eventually you become this giant hulking monstrosity of like flesh pouring out of your armor. And you have a weapon arsenal on the side of you. So say you're dealing with some like threat, and it's like, ah shit, there's a lot of just peons over there. I wish I had a shoulder-mounted minigun. Well, lucky for you, you picked up a minigun a couple weeks ago and it entered your body. And so it starts to grow out of your shoulder and come out, and now you have a shoulder-mounted minigun that can waste people away. They are horrific, and a lot of their violence is just them walking forward, aiming all their guns that are constantly shifting and changing inside of their bodies. And they're so cool. But that is going to wrap it up. There's some more random stuff to talk about with the Iron Warriors. There's some very cool characters and the Demon Kulaba. And, you know, I'm not going to talk about that. I don't think I want to for myself. So, yeah, I'm just going to wrap it up. If you like this, like, comment, subscribe, do that stuff. Join my membership. See ya.